Hello, good morning. This is session 2B, and the format for this will be 10 minutes for talk. I'll give you a warning at the 2-minute session, and then about 3 minutes for questions. If you choose to run on without questions, then we will not have questions and just go to the next speaker. All right, our first talk is from Novice to Not, a fully customizable solar system show for any planetarium educator. Mara West and Sarah Schultz from Minnesota State University Moorhead Planetarium.
All right, good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, Dr. Sarah Schultz was not able to be here today, so I will be presenting it by myself. Many of you have met me as MJ. Mara and MJ are the same person. Shocker. But yes, this is my show, From Novice to Not, a solar system show. So a little bit about me. I have just finished my third year for my undergrad. in biochemistry and biotechnology. And I have been working at the Minnesota State University Moorhead Planetarium as a presenter and show developer. Presenting, we present to show or like school groups, anyway from pre-K to adults. So we have a very wide variety of shows that we provide. We do a mix of live sky and also pre-recorded shows. I had an opportunity to work, or one of the bigger projects that I have done was we just celebrated our 50th anniversary at our planetarium, which is super exciting, and I got to work on that and co-write and co-present with Emily Watson over here, our 50th anniversary show, and I've also been involved with we have a student org extravaganza where we use to get new students involved into our planetarium. I have not been at our planetarium for 50 years, shocker. I've only been working there for 3 years, but we, like I said, present a variety of different shows involving, live sky and pre-recorded shows. So my project is to make an entertaining, customizable program that would be usable for any skill level presenter and adaptable for any audience, essentially. And we're building a framework so that a standard solar system tour can be used for, again, presenters of any skill level. So we have anywhere from like your newest presenter to your oldest presenter can just sit down and run the show. And we will be using, this program will be bundled and freely available via the Illuminati Cloud that anyone can use to download and then customize in their own facility. So our background, if I could get a drum roll please, it is based off our MSUM's current live show, drum roll. Thank you. Solar System Explorers. It is a very popular live show that we have been doing. And I have a little clip for you guys. Oh, nope, never mind. Our advertisement for our solar system show. This show, Solar System Explorers, is used to get kids from all ages to be interested in space, and we visit our, sun, moon, stars, rocky planets, gas giants, dwarf planets, and moons. Now, we present the show for 2 different age groups, so we have 2 different shows. We have our Twinkle Tots, which we love. Those are for ages 6 and under, and then we have our Space Cadets, which is our 7 and up group. Even though there's only like a 1-year age difference between our maximums, you'd be surprised about how many 7-year-olds we have come in and they'll just give you everything they know about the universe that they know. We have split up our programming on 4 different tours that we present within 4 different months. On tour 1, students will receive a passport little booklet where they can collect stickers that have each of the planets that we have visited. And they always love doing that, and it encourages them to come back. And then after completing about 3 out of the 4 tours, students receive a iron-on rocket patch and their official Solar System Explorer certificate. Now, we use this show specifically for training our student workers. We use this show specifically to train our student workers. We have we are a on-campus facility, and we have a majority of our planetarium is run by students themselves. So we try to get, on-campus students in and working in their planetarium. But it can get very overwhelming because they want to get involved, but they don't know exactly how to do that. So it is, us student workers who have been there, longer, it is our job to train them and make it not so scary and bad for them. So, yep, this is a good show because it demonstrates how to use adaptive language when talking to younger and older age groups, and it also explains like audience interactions as well. This is a very interactive live show that we do where we ask those open-ended questions about like, oh, what do you guys think Mercury's going to look like? What do you guys think the moon is going to be like? And we allow the students to answer us, and it gives a very good framework for how those audience interactions are going to go. And as well as teaching management skills for that classroom type setting. So, you get a bunch of 6-year-olds in a group together, they're gonna be rowdy, so you do that. So we've been using Worldviewer to build our program. It's a series of chapters, and you can build a GUI system or a guided user interface for this program. So I have a small video about our guided user interface. And the way that this is going to be structured is to have a script open and then buttons to play for that. So it should play here shortly. Come on. If it doesn't, well, so ideally it's a guided user interface, so you can just click the button and then it will automatically launch everything that you do. And this, again, if the videos don't seem to be working, and I apologize for that, but this shows how we can program buttons to launch off into open space. So we have a blast off button, and we normally have the kids count down, like 3, 2, 1, and they love that. And then we blast off, and all you have to do is click that blast off button, and then off you go. And then there is from the previous slide, there is a script that you read out and follow along with that should make it available and easy to use for your newest worker. And this is ideally to get workers very involved and interested in show development. We want this to be very, user-friendly, and we want them to eventually begin to build their own programs for themselves. So that's kind of the goal with this project. And that is all I have for you guys. So thank you.
Do we have questions for the speaker? If you have a question, by the way, come up to the microphone.
Last one was too short. Very good presentation. Do you feel better after having done your presentation?
Yes, very much so.
Sarah says hi. Good job, and she's very proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Oh.
Okay, so did I understand correctly, you have this passport and they have to attend more than one show to explore different planets. Is that the idea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think so, if I'm understanding you correctly. We have one tour where we explore like sun, moon, stars, and then they have that like groundwork. And then if they keep coming back to the tours, we go through the rocky planets where we start on Earth and then we move out. So we do a tour of the solar system. We have three characters that we use in our planetarium show. This is the show that I'm developing is going to be moved to just so one person will be able to present it, but the idea is that they'll keep coming back, so they'll learn about the entire solar system. So
it's not you want to both get many people in at least once, but you also want at least some people to come in more than once.
Yes.
And somehow you have to balance
yes.
balance that. Okay.
I So I have a question. Do the students start with a script too, along with the kind of control panel buttons?
The student workers, yes. So they'll, if you saw Emily Watson's presentation, she had the world viewer, she did a snapshot of like what her screen looks like when she presents. For those of you who didn't see, we have our one of our interfaces, or our world viewer interface, our open space interface, and then a script. We use Google Docs, and we just scroll in the script and then do a live flying. Whereas this project aims to make it automated, so they'll have the script and then they'll have the buttons as well. So you can just click the buttons that are on the script and continue to move on.
All right, cool. And can you talk about any like customization that students have like added their own content or how they've done that?
Yes. So, well, we're getting really comfortable. So this is a very work in progress show right now. So you can put in any slides that you would like shown. I'm going to be, you see this kind of solar system, or the spaceship panel. When we plan to fly to different planets, I plan on having that come up as we fly and then come down, and then we'll have, little facts, little slides about each of the planets. We like to do size comparisons as well, especially, and then using we'll go like, oh, if Jupiter's the size of a beach ball, make your arms the size of a beach ball, and then Earth would be the size of like your fist. So we try to incorporate that as well into our programming. But yes.
Do we have other questions? Okay, let's thank our speaker.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is, our next presentation is Stephen's Quintet, Multi-Wave Exploration by Frank Summers of the Space Telescope Science Institute.
Good morning. How are you? I'm getting the lights off because I do movies and I really want you to see the movies, and I don't care if you see me. My title at Space Telescope is Principal Visualization Scientist, but that's kind of boring, so I like to call myself an astrophysicist. Much, much cooler. The work I'm doing here is under the auspices of NASA's Universe of Learning, which is our informal learning, lifelong learning presentation that's a collaboration between Space Telescope and JPL Caltech and Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics up in Boston. All right? So I run the AstroViz project. And for the AstroViz project, we make multi-wavelength visualizations of some of the most famous objects in the universe. As you can see, we've done the Orion Nebula, the Whirlpool Galaxy, the Crab Nebula, the Ultra Deep Field, and Eta Car. The one in the lower right is just a highlight of some of the 50 other visualizations I've done while I've been at Space Telescope. And the idea is to bring these things into 3D to give the audience a mental model of what these objects are like, and then to teach them some of the science behind them. This year, as the title says, we're doing Stephen's Quintet. So this is Stephen's Quintet, and there are 5 galaxies here. And when you look at them, look at their redshifts, you'll notice that one of these is not like the other. This one is only at 800 kilometers per second, where the rest are around 6,000 kilometers per second. This is a foreground galaxy that just happens to be in front of those other 4 galaxies. So the quintet is actually a quartet. Not so fast. If you take a wider view, you can see NGC 7320, which is also at 6,000 kilometers a second, and in fact is part of the physical group. So our quintet that was a quartet is now back to a quintet, or maybe you could look at it all and just call it a sextet, all right? When you look at the redshifts of these 2 galaxies, they are around 6,000 or a little less, all right? And the other ones are more around 6,500 kilometers a second. And so here's another one of these things that's not like the others. In that tight grouping of 4 over on the right, that yellow one, that's not at the same redshift. That'll be important in just a second. When you look at Stephan's quintet from the ground, this is a DSS image, you can get the structure of all this, right? But we have Hubble and boom, look at that resolution, isn't that cool? Well, the same thing happens in infrared. If you start with the Spitzer image of Stephan's quintet, and then you go to Webb, boom, yeah, you get some really cool stuff. And so naturally the question you're all asking is, well, what about Webb versus Hubble, okay? Well, you're doing infrared versus visible, so it's a little apples, oranges, but they are actually relatively similar resolutions. There's Hubble, and there's Webb. Hubble and Webb. So Webb has a little more resolution. For every 2 pixels Hubble sees, Webb sees 3. So it's like 1.5 the resolution. And the other thing is you notice those background galaxies. Hubble doesn't see as many background galaxies as Webb does, all right? Distant galaxies are brighter in the infrared. Everything's redshifted and everything. You get the background galaxies are just gorgeous in all the Webb images, okay? All right. So what stories are we going to tell? Well, we're going to talk about the various galaxy types. We got the spiral, and Hubble, you see the blue stars, new young stars, and you see the pink star-forming regions that you do not see in Webb. You see the gaseous structures underlying all those spiral arms, and you see this smooth thing of the older stars. Webb basically sees older stars, the low-mass stars, right? For elliptical galaxies, they're not that different because it's mostly older stars, mostly the low-mass stars, so both Hubble and Webb are kind of smooth shapes. But again, take a look at the background galaxies, how they just pop in the Webb thing. The true story that I really want to get into are the tidal distortions, okay? The interactions that are happening in this group, okay? So here is, come on, there it is. Here is NGC 7319, and you can see how it's got lots of spiral arms and a tidal tail stretching off, and I'll outline them here for you, okay? We can see those same things in Hubble, in the Hubble image, although Hubble has the tidal tail cut off, but you can see that this shows some evidence of having an interaction. Well, the interaction is identified when you follow those tidal tails and they head back to NGC 7320. All right, and what has been determined via science and computer simulations is that NGC 7320 swung past 7319, created those tidal tails, and is now out to the east of the group. The other thing that's really cool, and which I learned so much about while researching this project, is this high-speed collision, okay? So 7318b in the center there has this big arc of star formation, right? And it's really cool, and it shows up amazingly sharp in infrared, right? But the telling thing is when you see it in X-rays from the Chandra X-ray Observatory. This is a shock here. There's something crashing into something, creating these high-energy X-rays, okay? And then you look at those redshifts again, okay? And NGC 7318b is much lower in redshift than the other ones, which is not true because it has to be at similar distances, because a shock front is stationary. It doesn't move. This is where things are stopping, right? So what actually you define is that 7318b is crashing into the group from behind at 900 kilometers a second. Yeah, there's a huge high-speed collision going on here. And furthermore, material from that collision is actually splaying out into a bridge in front of 7319. So you can see all this stuff, this tendrils moving to the right. I will outline them for you. There you go, right? Okay, those tendrils are in front of 7319. You can see them in infrared. You can see them in visible, right? And in visible, you can see that they are dark dust lanes out in front of 7319. And of course, there are computer simulations to follow this and see how this is all possible, all right? So those are the stories we want to tell. And here is an excerpt from the visualizations. This is 2 minutes out of the 5-minute sequence. This barred spiral galaxy has few star-forming regions and some irregular spiral arms. Its core contains an active supermassive black hole. Energetic material around the black hole blazes brightly in X-rays. More distant material shines in infrared light. A tidal tail provides evidence of an interaction with this nearby galaxy. This small spiral is part of the group and passed near the larger barred spiral several hundred million years ago. This galaxy is undergoing a high-speed collision as it crashes into the group from behind. Its shape features distorted spiral arms and stretched out tails with considerable star formation. This X-ray shocked ridge marks where the galaxy is colliding with the dense gas between the galaxies. A bridge of material that extends in front of the barred spiral galaxy can be seen in X-rays. As bright clouds in infrared light and dark clouds in visible light. An encounter with the distant elliptical may have stretched out the spiral before its current chaotic collision. All right, so that is our Stephan's Quintet visualization excerpt. It was released on Tuesday, so it's fresh and hot off the presses. If you would like to watch it, you can go to the Hubble Space Telescope channel on YouTube, and it's available there. If you would like to download it and play it in your museum, it's available both at hubblesite.org and at webtelescope.org. Now, actually, I will say that all of the visualizations I've showed you today, and almost all the visualizations I've ever done, are available on that YouTube channel and at hubblesite.org. Stephan's Quintet is the only one available at webtelescope.org because it's the only one that has web data in it. We went overboard on this one, okay? So what I just played for you is the version that has the narration and has the text on screen, okay? We also have just the narration in case you don't want that text on screen. That has closed captioning that you can add to it. We have give you the closed caption file. We also have a brand new version we've never done before, narration with an audio description, okay, in which another voiceover comes in and describes what's going on screen for those who are visually impaired. And none other than Noreen Grice looked at it yesterday and gave it a thumbs up, at least a reasonable thumbs up, okay? I can't say she was fantastically enthusiastic about it because I don't want to speak for her, but you know, it proves we didn't do horribly on our first try to do audio description. We also provide for you the music. If you want to get rid of the narration and just use the music, that's fine. We give you captions. If you want to translate this into Spanish or German or Swahili, please do so. We have the captions file, and you can add that in. It's an SRT file to do a translation to other things. The press release also talks about the other things we've done with Stephan's Quintet, including sonifications done by Kim Arcan's group up at CFA. They did sonification of the Stephan's Quintet imagery. And also we have tactile panels. We created some tactile for the panels that you can feel the structure within Stephan's Quintet, both for the Hubble image and for the Webb MIRI image. Finally, we do a lot of our resources that are related. We put all these things together because you can't do it on YouTube. You can't, point them to the tactile panels on YouTube. On universeunplugged.org, which is run by the folks at Caltech. We have the visualizations and we have the links to all the sonification resources and the tactile resources and everything. However, Robert Hurt was on vacation the last 3 weeks, and so Universe Unplugged is not ready yet for Stephan's Quintet. It is ready for some of our previous visualizations. All right, so that's it. I hope you are able to see, hear, and feel Stephan's Quintet. Thank you for your attention. And thank you to the AV staff for turning off the lights so that the movie appears better.
I'm sorry, we don't have any time for questions. Can we have our next presentation?
Okay, great.
Not the light guy. Okay, surround sound as an additional layer of immersion in the dome by Andrew Kerr and Alexander Goldberg of the Dale Etheridge Planetarium at the College of Southern Nevada.
All right. And actually, Alexander is with In Media Design rather than the planetarium, the Dale Etheridge Planetarium. So my name is Andrew Kerr, and can we please use the microphone? Sorry, I wasn't thinking. I don't use a mic normally, so I just jump into the normal presentation mode. So my name is Andrew Kerr, and Alexander is actually with In Media Design rather than the Dale Etheridge Planetarium at the College of Southern Nevada. So I know this is going to be kind of different. So instead of visuals, because we're talking about sound, I want you guys to lean back. Your eyes, which seems to trigger, I need to stay closer to this. Lean back, close your eyes, and think about your first experience in your dome. The first time you were in there, the first things you actually did, the first things you heard, the first things you saw. How many of you actually remember the sound as one of the first things that caught your attention in the dome? Quite a few of you. How many of you whispered into one side to a person on the other side of the dome? Yeah, there's a few of you. There's always going to be a few who do that. How many of you turn your back to the audience and still demonstrate that you can talk into the wall of your dome in a very quiet voice and let people still hear you? Yeah, we're getting lower and lower on that, aren't we? Sound becomes the forgotten aspect of immersion inside of the domes. We are so used to the visual aspects of what we are doing that we tend to stop thinking about the sound that's going on around us. And so what I want to talk about is a little bit of the history of surround sound too. Surround sound hasn't been around for very long. Recorded sound hasn't been around for very long. 1877, Edison's phonograph. First time of recording sounds. A wax cylinder. It took until the 1930s before people started to think, I'd like to hear things a little better. Alan Blumlein was at the movies, I think it said with his wife, and in the 1930s, and was thinking, this isn't good. I don't like the sound in here. And so it him to actually work on and invent the concept of stereo sound, which was patented in, I believe, 1934. I don't have the exact date on there. But he also, while developing stereo, developed a rudimentary form of surround sound too. From there, nothing much happened. The 1950s is when stereo actually started to catch on, but mono was still in use until 1970. They didn't give up on mono. First use of 5.1 surround sound. Does anybody know where the first place that used 5.1 surround was?
84.
What?
84.
Okay, well, it actually, what I found was the Moulin Rouge in France was the first place to have used surround sound. The earliest version of 5.1 was created by Dominique Bertrand. And he had earlier made a version that was a 3.1. Keeps cutting out. 3.1 sound. So with center, left, right, and a bass. And then he added the left and right surround. And of course, nowadays, people keep going farther and farther and farther to the point where, you can have up to, I think the one sound was like 192 channels. None of us have that in our domes. If you do, let me know. You've got too much money. We could use some of it. So, the concept of surround sound is still only about, roughly 50 years old. And the ability to do it. There were some rudimentary tries. The first movie to try it was Fantasia. Disney's Fantasia actually tried a version of surround sound using 50 speakers, is what was said. So, sound kind of becomes the forgotten aspect of everything that we do in the dome because we are always worried about those visuals. So, what we've done is, in collaboration with Alexander and In Media, he works in surround sound. He wants to create music, and he creates visuals that go along with that music, but the visuals are kind of secondary to it, to produce concerts that we are doing in the dome using the surround sound. And I like to tell the audience as they come in that the visuals are not the important aspect of this, strangely enough, in a planetarium. We want the sound to be immersive. We want the sound to be the star of these shows that we're actually doing. And so what ends up happening is that in combination with the visuals that we do and the sound that is produced by Alexander, we work it into the 5.1 system and then throw the visuals on top just as a little something. Our collaboration is basically a public-private because the College of Southern Nevada is a public school, Alexander is a private company, and it's something that we all have to look for, we all have to kind of try to do, especially in the near future, as funding sources tend to get smaller and smaller. And we need to also consider the fact that we are looking at lots of different ways in order to attract new as well as just more folks to come to the planetarium. If we can get them hooked with a concert that utilizes surround sound and visuals, maybe they'll come back for one of the other shows. Maybe they'll tell teachers who can bring their field trip students. And really, that is probably the single most important aspect of what we do, getting people into our domes. Now, it's not to say that we haven't had a few issues. We are very rapidly discovering that abstract visuals have to be very slow on the dome. The slower they are, the better, because when you look at something on a flat screen, it doesn't almost matter how fast it is, but when you project that up onto a curved dome, speed matters greatly. We have people who are feeling a bit of motion sickness with some of the visuals that are coming through. So another aspect that you have to be very careful of. But as far as immersive sound is concerned, when we immerse people in the video and immerse people in the sound, they actually leave the planetarium with a feeling that is very different than when we just immerse them in the video aspect. So I think actually that's going to wrap up the talk portion. So if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask, feel free.
Anybody have questions? about surround, about immersion. Sure.
I've been thinking a lot about sound and adding it to programs and stuff, and I guess my thought would be like in terms of the immersion of when you're giving a program, what types of sound scape, sound effects, sound things, sound cues, what might you suggest, think about, think works well in the dome compared to a concert? Hopefully the question makes sense.
What we done right now for the programming in Las Vegas Planetarium with Andrew, we created the synthesized versions of classical composers, Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, and also some electronic music as well. There is also, talking generally, there is also a lot of modern composers what can go really well with planetarium media, like Brian Eno and John Sierra and many like that. So I think I answered the question.
Hi, John Keller, Fisk Planetarium. I'm curious about the promotion and how you market this to get bigger audiences, because it is a different experience you're trying to promote. So what pathways have you used to get audiences to know that this is an experience they can have?
We highly utilize the social media, like Facebook ads and other social media, Instagram, and letting people know that this kind of events are happening in the planetarium, and talking about the uniqueness of these events and about the sound and unique experience of music, and people so far like it. Yeah.
And then also, we're kind of, right now, because of the collaboration aspects, we're kind of skirting some of the technical aspects of what the institution really would prefer us to do. It's not like we're doing things wrong. It's just that we are doing things in a new way that hasn't necessarily been completely approved. So our partnership, the partnership that we're doing is essentially collaborating together to try and see what we can do with all of this. So it is still done, advertising through social media. Alexander is actually doing targeting advertising, and it is actually bringing in a lot of folks who have not actually heard of the planetarium before. And even in some cases, even though we're in Las Vegas, we are not a destination planetarium. We are way off the strip. And with the Madison Sphere Garden going in, we are going to become even less. For those of you who haven't heard about that, 16K by 16K curved theater that looks like a giant globe sitting in Las Vegas. You can see it from the airport. You can see it from a lot of places. And programming that is already designed for the walls, including then U2 opening it in October. So, I unfortunately just gave an advertisement for it, but it actually has me a little bit worried. And so the reality is we are just looking for any way possible. We've talked to the Mesmerica folks, and we're planning to try and bring them in as well. So a lot of different ways in which we're just looking at increasing our planetarium visitors.
Hi, I know it's not really something you're working on specifically, but I just wanted to kind of bring it into the discussion as dealing with students or visitors that are hearing impaired. Because as I hosted the conference last year, I tried to really make some updates to facilitate that, but one of our vendor demos, because I didn't understand how the software was working, like I couldn't get the narration channel because it's the center channel. So now that I've been working through this past year, I understand the software to get it to go to my stereo mixer that can feed a cochlear implant transmitter. I've got to mix it down to a stereo, which removes the surround sound from the room. So like, I'm just saying that anybody out there in the world comes up with a way to like both send the surround to my surround system and also create probably a mono mix for cochlear implants, or people using a hearing assistance device would be quite a godsend to not just planetariums but theaters as well.
So you're talking about converting from surround to mono?
Yeah, I'll handle this one too, because he makes them in surround and then I have to adjust to make them work. The problem is, of course, that we run into a lot of issues with sound for the hearing impaired within the dome. And we also run into a lot with closed captioning, everything like that. So what I've done is I can actually take, and using Audacity, which is a free open source sound software, I can actually mix down 5.1 to surround, or to just strictly stereo. And so that might be a way for you to try that, because if you can get the stereo, because you mentioned that the stereo seemed to work with cochlear implant transmitter.
Yeah, the ones they've been using have like an 1/8" headphone input.
Yeah, so I would just try and mix down using available sound programming to see if you can get it down to the stereo. You can actually mix it all the way down to mono as well.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of figuring out a technology to put out both simultaneously.
Yeah, spatial, there is the chance for spatial sound, and I know there's a lot of places working on it. I just don't have the funds to actually have any sort of a program to deal with spatial sound right now. So I kind of make do with what I have, which is
which
everybody does.
Right.
And so I hope, actually, that is a good question. I'd like to be able to look more into it.
Yeah, well, thanks for even thinking about it.
Oh,
Me? Yeah. I just wanted to touch on that before it got railroaded. Another thing for hearing impaired, actually hearing impaired people prefer just to have a narration and not music and not effects or anything, because a lot of the systems get confusing and they're just trying to pay attention. And this is most easily done by just having a separate track playing in parallel to your soundtrack. And that's easy to do even from a PC, but all our systems have multiple PCs in it. And it's really easy to put the narration track in there. So don't mix it down to a mono for hearing impaired people.
Well, for just a music program, though, without narration. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to at least get it, you can mix it down that way.
Yeah. Okay.
You just want to say one more thing?
Just one more thing. Because we don't have any visuals to show you, I would like to present everybody in the audience our my USB music card with the preview of our shows. Thank you.
Okay, our next talk is My Eclipse Journey, Wise Wonders and Wow. Bob Bonador, Sorf Planetarium, Milwaukee Public Museum.
Thank you. Thanks for the monitor, John, and for the whole conference. Adam and Jason, they've done a wonderful job. I haven't seen them, and I'm sure they're working very hard today. So conferences, if you've hosted one, you know. So I just always want to give a shout out to them and thank them for coming. So I work in Milwaukee at a big natural history cultural museum, and before I get into the eclipses, we're building a new state-of-the-art. Can I get the lights down back here? Who's ever kind of looks like the Guggenheim in New York City a little bit, but it's a fantastic place. Enniad's the architect's the same one who did the fabulous place in Shanghai. And they did not consult me before they put the fake night sky with the moon. And and the sun setting here in the north, and so it's anyway. But it's been a great project. The planetarium. This is not. This is just suggesting galaxies in space, but that's where the planetarium will be, on the ground floor there. So $240 million. This is a huge project, and we've got about 90. Well, about 80 million to go. And we're going to break ground at the end of this year. I mean, we've been working on this for 3-4 years, and we got 3 years till we open in 2026. So I'm going to run through that. So they finally gave us these renderings of the inside. It's going to be flat with removable seats, just like the Adler, a 60-foot dome. And we can do yoga, we can do anything, beanbag chairs. If you've been to St. Louis, they do all that. So right in the heart of downtown Milwaukee, and what they call the Deer District, next to the new big arena downtown. So Eclipse Journeys, if you read the intro, I'm going to focus mainly on the totality, though lunar eclipses are still wild too. I love lunar eclipses. I love all eclipses. So how many have seen totality? Okay, a lot, wow. Okay, how many have seen totality before 2017? Okay, well, we really got, it's so great. 2017 was such an opportunity for us to see it, and of course, we get to do it again in 2024 here in America. So I've been fortunate to see 6 of these, and if you can read this, and I've told some people I've been very, very fortunate. I'm 6 for 6, and I feel my luck is just teetering. I'm already nervous about the weather on April 8th. I checked San Antonio's weather today. That's where I'm going for the eclipse. So my first one was Aruba in 1998, and in my abstract, the 91 eclipse was big. I was supposed to go to that. Everyone was telling me I should go to that, and I said, I don't have the money. It's not that cool. I mean, I've seen pictures. I don't need to go. So when this rolled around, I kind of got a talking to by people, and I think, might have had a little bit of pay raise, but I was able to go. And it was just an amazing first-time experience. My experience, we had a 10-inch Dob there, and it did rain actually after first contact in Aruba, of all places. It started to rain for about 10-20 minutes, and my experience was I really felt the world was coming to an end. I mean, I could just feel it. I mean, the slow dimming of the light, and my other mind is saying, okay, I know what I'm doing. But I really thought the world. So they say the hardest thing you can do is put yourself in someone else's shoes. And so we all read the stories about eclipses and about all we sometimes think crazy things, the mythology. God, that just seemed, of course you're going to shoot arrows at the sun to try to relight it, like some of the Native Americans did. Of course you're going to bang on things to chase the dragon away. That's logical. That was so logical after experiencing this first one. And hopefully this plays. The video should be there. No, it did. I'm not sure why the video is not playing. Do I have to? Well, if I have time, I'm going to play a video afterwards. These videos are supposed to come up. The Black Sea in August 11th, 1999. I see Sean in the audience. Sean, can you find yourself here? I went with my brother. I got 6 siblings. There's Sean, dancing in the streets of Athens. So it was quite fun. And if you've never seen an eclipse, and I know a lot of you are going to plans to see, obviously 2024, but there's 2 coming up in 2026 and 27, and go travel if you love to travel. I mean, Romania was great. They have these eclipse viewers with Dracula, so of course I don't know their language, but I had somebody translate it. I'll call you today. Because vampires aren't supposed to come out during the daytime, but they can during the totality. I mean, who knew that? So they had a lot of great stuff. So again, my videos aren't working. I'll try to play them. But there's a group picture. So I've done a lot of trips. I was working in Minneapolis at the time for this one. I led a group of 30 people on a cruise ship. Then we went to Zambia in 2001, just 22 years ago. And again, travel. This is Cape Town. The constellation Men's of the Table is based on this when they traveled down there. So, I mean, and we went on safari. I mean, I could, this is what I did on my Eclipse vacation. I could go on forever on all this stuff. But I mean, to see a giraffe in the wild, my first thought was this is not a zoo. This is so fun not being in a zoo and just see the wildlife. Victoria Falls is just amazing on the Zambezi River. Got to see hippopotamuses and just everything. So just really, really cool. 2006, the Mediterranean, another cruise ship. This time I was hired to be an Eclipse whatever person, bring a telescope and do all that stuff. So I was a hired gun on this trip. I was in Texas at the time and didn't have time to organize a trip. Another brother came with us and his family. So I've got 2 siblings to go out of 6 to see totality. Saw Elvis in Genova, if you were wondering where he is. That's where, and this is Greece. So again, I'm looking at my time here. Didn't get to go to Libya. We were fighting with them. All the Americans had to stay on the ship. Everyone else got to go off. And we didn't. And again, this is 17 years ago. So you got to see Libya. And Crete was great too. And they had just all the things people do on the cruise ships. But of course, we're just so focused on totality. And it's just wonderful. So the big one in 2017, of course, I led 110 people down to St. Louis area. We did museums and different things. It was about a 4 or 5 day trip. And I like to track the moon, the waning crescent moon, as it comes into the sun. And we got to see Anna. I reserved 4 parks from Jefferson City to Southern Illinois to make sure that we got totality. Of course, Superman was prepared. He's got his glasses on. And you guys, a lot of you have done all this stuff, the colanders and just using your hand. So I'm going to skip these videos. There's our group with Clark Kent. And then we got to go to Chile in 2019. We had a group of about 40 people, and we got to go Santiago. So the first day we went up into the Andes, and the next day we went down to the ocean. So it was so much fun. And there's Mark, our GLPA president-to-be, back there, Mark Percy. And we won't get it. If you want to hear some fun details about this trip, Eric Schur took this. He's not here at this conference. Eric is one heck of a photographer, and he's just amazing. So there we are. My last solar eclipse was just catching this little 10% eclipse sun rising over Lake Michigan. And it was so cloudy. It was so cloudy. And you always debate, should I go, should I go? Oh, I'll just go. Might get lucky. Got lucky. And took this through a telescope. And it was, I don't know, for some reason it's one of my favorite pictures of any eclipse, just because I was just like, we're not going to see anything. And then it came out. So I encourage you, we're doing a show on eclipses, and I just want to mention something about this show we're doing, because I'm trying to communicate the glory and the wonder and the awe of a total solar eclipse. And we go through the whole show, and the last 30 seconds of the show, part of the reason it's called, we're going to say lights out. The dome's going to go black, and we're going to play audio of people experiencing the total solar eclipse. All the OMGs, all of that. So the last 30 seconds of the show is just going to be the sound. And I think the talkers before that were talking about sound. And I think that communicates it more than anything. is just to hear the voices and everything when totality is coming. And it's, you know, again, it's talk about magic was used a few times today. So we all know about the annular coming up and this one. So we're doing a trip of 67 people to San Antonio. See caves, the Alamo, state parks. But here are the other ones. If you haven't checked these out, start planning on them. So 2026, Iceland, Greenland, Spain, Europe. That's a shorter one. But then the big one on the Cerro cycle, if you remember 91 and 09, 2027, this is over 6 minutes. And look at all the places you go. Go on the Mediterranean, whatever, Spain, Morocco, Egypt. Start planning on that. This is going to be a huge eclipse. So, as you know, America after this one next spring is 2045. So, you got a bit of a wait for America to get one. So, this is my best metaphor, not mine, but Annie Dillard's. This is my best metaphor for totality. So Annie Dillard's a nature writer. She's great if you've ever heard of her. Seeing a partial eclipse bears the same relation to see a total eclipse as kissing a man as does to marrying him. So totality is like love. You know, you fall in love, you can't explain it. You're inarticulate. And she also said, or as flying in an airplane does to, comparing, again, partial eclipse to total, and I think you know the next one, jumping out of an airplane. The experiences are not the same. We all partial eclipses, so anyone here jump out of an airplane? No one? Your son, my wife did it. I've never jumped out of it. I'm scared to jump out of a freaking plane. But again, the analogy is that the differences are just totally different. So, what I got? Like a minute or two for questions. No? No? See me at lunch or before lunch, and I'll answer questions.
I just want to mention you skipped one, the 2030 eclipse. You just stopped too quickly. That's through my province in South Africa, and that's your opportunity to visit South Africa. Just 7 years from now, 2030.
Oh yeah, I stopped at 2027. You only get 15 minutes. I've got all the eclipses memorized.
Okay, next talk is Planet Passport, Building Community and Contact by Renee Kerrigan, Peoria Riverfront Museum, Dome Planetarium.
Hello, I am Renee Kerrigan. I'm the planetarium director, and I also serve as the curator of science at the Peoria Riverfront Museum, which is in Peoria, Illinois. And today I'm going to speak to you about Planet Passport, which is a program that we just started last year in October of 2022. And I'm so glad that I'm in the same session as Mara, because she spoke about Sarah Schultz's program that was my original inspiration for my Planet Passport program. So I saw Sarah Schultz present on this, 3-4 years ago at a GLIPA conference, and told her at the time I thought it was a great idea and I'd love to adapt it, and she encouraged me to do so. So I have, and maybe you can adapt it again for your dome. So the conferences are gifts that keep on giving. This program is called Planet Passport, and it was born of the idea from our CEO that he wants us to, at our museum, which is a multidisciplinary museum, art, science, and history, that we wanted to be able to have more programs that you could achieve something with, accumulate points, and then get prizes and encouragement to come back to the museum. So we wanted to try to do that in all areas of the museum, and in conversations about that, I remembered this idea that Sarah had talked about, where it was sort of a passport-based program. People could get prizes, stickers specifically. I remembered the booklet and the stickers that they could get if they attended programs. So after talking about it quite a lot with our team, debating on different ways to go about doing it, we settled on a passport program. So this is our little planet passport. It was designed to look a little bit like a passport booklet. We got it printed by a local print shop locally. There's a page for each planet and destination. And the idea is that we will have a program on each destination, the 8 planets plus the asteroid belt and Ceres plus the Pluto and the Kuiper belt. And that people will get a sticker for each program that they attend, and as they attend different programs, they'll get little prizes along the way. And I have to give a shout out to my coworker, Nick. Nick and I have worked together for a very long time, and he and I developed this together, debated about the best ways to do it, and he did all of the programming for it. We present them together as a tag team, which is fun. My coworker Anne Marie says that Nick and Renee presenting together is magic. Here's a design of the stickers. I think they're really cool, and I would like to get the Mars one on a t-shirt, which I probably can do, and I just haven't done it yet. So the idea, again, a basic idea is that you get 1 passport per person, and this is not an age-restricted program. It's available to literally anybody who wants to do it. We have families with young children do it all together, and we have single adults who are retired age who come to the program, and then we have young adults who don't have families who come to the program. And so we sort of aim for just like general audience age level in our presentation, and we've had just great feedback. People just really enjoy that. And that 1 passport gets you into all 10 shows. We chose to do that instead of making people pay per program, which is one way we consider doing it. We wanted this to be accessible and easy. So 1 passport gets you into all 10 shows. Passport costs $15 for museum members and $20 for non-members. So it's very affordable. And there are 2 shows on the same topic each month. We decided to do one on Saturday mornings and then one on Thursday evenings, and that the topic would be repeated. So that way, it's a little flexible for different schedules, and it's manageable for us, the presenters. Participants get a little prize when they collect when they collect 3, then 5, then 8, or 10 stickers. And this is just a little snapshot of some of the prizes I've assembled in this cute space basket that we just bought on Amazon. The prizes were inexpensive things that we bought from Oriental Trading Company. There's, like little gliders, there's stress balls, there's little puzzles, there's some space candy, there's slap bracelets. And then for the grown-ups, I printed the stickers again as a bookmark, so there's bookmarks with the designs, and I put some like NASA stickers in there and stuff. So the grown-ups take the prizes too. I mean, who doesn't like a little bit of swag? Everybody is enjoying it. Those people who've accumulated 5 stickers at the end of the series are invited to a planet party, which will be in August, and I guess I figured out what I'm going to do at that planet party. At first I wasn't sure, but we're going to have trivia, and maybe a laser show and some food. And those who have 8 stickers are invited to a telescope viewing event, exclusive telescope viewing event. So the program itself is a 45-minute live presentation. And again, the same content on A planet or destination is repeated twice a month, and the content we've found is really useful for our other presentations. So again, this is where I really need to give credit to my coworker, Nick. He's the person who's created the custom control panels. We use Digistar 7, so we made a custom control panel for each destination. And I know you can't see much from this screen grab of it, but the content is basically, we show the planet in the sky, the planets that you can see in the sky. We talk about the way the planet looks in the sky. We have a Zeiss ZKP4, so we're able to sort of show, you know, if Mars is retrograde motion or the planets in their positions in the sky with that. And then we talk about its discovery or early exploration for the farther out planets. For example, with Jupiter, we showed Juno spinning around Jupiter and flying by the moons, that sort of thing. Then we go to specific locations on the planet. So with Venus, there's all sorts of really interesting features that have really cool names. And so we were able to get specific into the different geological features on the planets. Some were more challenging than others, right? But it turns out that you can fill the content 45 minutes pretty easily if you look into those specific locations and their cool names. Here's another screen capture. I think this one's Mars, which was a lot easier. There's been a lot more exploration on Mars. So that's what the program is, and how about the results? Well, one of the things, and this is a dark picture, but you can kind of see some of the audience in here. One of the things that has been unexpected result for me is that it's actually built a little space community. The audience is coming back. We're almost at the end. We have one more month in our first series. And so these people have seen each other now for 10 months. At a show. At the beginning of the show, this is another genius thing that Nick does. He just goes to our library and reserves a whole bunch of books for kids or adults on the planet. And then we just have them spread out at the beginning. So if they come early, they can page through books. And then during the show, we allow people to ask questions. After the show, we'll see people chatting with each other. So I feel like we've actually built a little community. These people have gotten to know each other a little bit. So that's been great. It's definitely fulfilled that goal of having people want to come back, having people have a program that they keep coming back to. We have not seen, this is a 10-month program basically, and we haven't really seen the audience drop off. We filled our shows. I wasn't sure what to expect. I thought maybe we'll have 15 people at the first one, and we had like 45 people at the first one, and then at the second one on the same topic, we had another 45 people. So we've actually, our planetarium seats 85 guests, and we've actually sold 120 of these passports. So it's worked out that in this first series, we've never had the planetarium be too full, but it's pretty full. And these are my kids. This is Stella standing up. She's 5, and Rosemary's the smaller one in the car seat. So it's also built that need for people to want to try to achieve the goals, like get their stickers and their passports. Stella comes to the Planet Passport, and she feels like she owns the planetarium anyway. So she just runs around. I make her sit still when there's an audience in there. But she found out that we would maybe miss Mars because we were going on a family vacation. And she was like, I won't get my Mars sticker? And she was like really concerned about that. And so we were driving to Florida, which from Peoria, it's like an 18-hour drive. And we delayed leaving on the trip so that we could first attend Planet Passport so she could get her Mars sticker, and we left from Planet Passport to start the first log of our trip. And that's my family. I know I'm biased, but there's been other families who have sent me an email. We were sick. Can we please come? You know, they want to achieve that, getting that sticker in their passport. We've also we've just sent a little follow-up email. We let people know when the next one's going to be. We connect them to some online resources. And it has actually turned out that it's profitable. I priced it affordably because I wanted to make sure it was accessible to people, and my main goals were to build that repeat audience, to build that community. But we had, our only expenses were the books, the stickers, the prizes, and then there'll be a little food cost for the party. And we've doubled, like we've made twice what we've spent, basically, on this first program. So we do plan to start the series again. Just repeat the series again in October of this year. We think that we haven't like saturated the audience of guests who are interested in this sort of program. And it's been really fun. And we use the content for our regular programming. So we do Tour the Solar System shows regularly on our public schedule and for school groups. And if I have a specific thing, I remember, oh, we talked about this in the Jupiter show. There's a great picture. It's very easy for me to go to that custom control panel that we made, and I have that content now, like deep content on each planet ready to go. So it's been super successful, and I hope that since I got the idea from a presentation at a conference and adapted it and made it our own, that you will take this idea and adapt it and make it your own in your planetarium. Thanks very much.
Hi. I was just curious, Renee, you said you're going to go right away to the next. Have you considered anything, since you create a community group already, maybe like a special alumni of Planet Passports, like to kind of keep that existing group still going a little?
I hadn't considered that, but thank you for the idea, because we could certainly do like a Planet Passport reunion, and maybe we share James Webb images or something, content that they wouldn't have gotten. Thank you for that.
We do a somewhat similar concept to this, except we do it at a Junior Space Rangers camp. And I was curious, is your Digistar pages, are they uploaded to the cloud?
They are not. I've been wondering if I should upload them to the cloud. They are like really specific to the live program that we give, and we don't have like written scripts for them, like written spoken, what you would say with them. But if there's interest, we could certainly.
Upload it to the cloud.
Okay, I'll work on getting them up on the cloud. Thanks so much.
All right, our next talk is NDI technology as a robust solution for planetarium live streaming and simulcasting. Speaker is Dan Hittell, Morrison Planetarium, California Academy of Sciences.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I love how boring my presentation title sounds. It's going to be a little bit technical. But this presentation is inspired by something that we've certainly been going through at the Academy, and something that maybe some of the rest of you have been approached. I know some people have emailed me questions about this, so this is why I thought to make a paper. Obviously, during the lockdowns of the early pandemic, many of us did pivot into some kind of virtual presentation mode. California Academy of Sciences was one of those facilities that was closed for most of 2020 and into 2021. And we really pivoted very heavily into virtual programs. Of course, during that time, all of our virtual programs was I was driving laptops and computers around to all of our staff's homes to bring them the high power computers we were using at the Academy to their homes to do live streaming and present the same astronomy software and content online that we do at the Academy. But when we reopened, there was sort of the question of how can we maintain these audiences and even grow these audiences? Like many facilities, we reopened before the vaccine became widely available, and so there was a lot of audience trepidation about coming back to our facility, including to the enclosed space of the planetarium. But even as sort of things have returned to our current post-pandemic normal, there has still been interest in how we maintain these audiences through live streaming and simulcasting. And what I wanted to really dive into this is, we sort of had these ad hoc solutions we came up with during the pandemic, a lot of use of OBS and other free solutions, but for doing a robust system that could function every day for any kind of event, I really wanted to make sure we were doing something that was going to be really like professional and good. And my research on that led me down the pathway to NDI as a solution to help do this. Now, in like my 16 years of giving papers at GLPA and other planetarium conferences, I have pretty much only done papers about free and open source software. This is the first time I'm going to really be talking about a paid product. I have no sponsorship or other links to NewTek, the company that makes NDI, but I think it's a really good solution. And what's really key about NDI, it is only one brand, but it is sort of within this genre of software and protocols called AV over IP. If you purchase a new audio system in the last several years, you've probably bought something that has like Dante or AVB as the backbone of your audio system. That is audio over IP, where instead of using traditional analog audio cables to send signal, everything is a digital signal and being sent over an IP network, so all being sent over Ethernet cables. NDI is a protocol for doing that, but with video. So you are taking a video signal and sending it in high quality, low latency over a standard gigabit internet protocol network. And this is really good because for one, you can basically send AV sources anywhere that is connected to this network. And also the big thing is using hardware devices reduces the encode burden on the hardware that we're using, which is really important for planetariums because we do very graphically intensive simulations. So why did we land on NDI? Like I mentioned, we were doing a lot of streaming programs during the pandemic. We wanted to keep that going, but why not OBS? We were using OBS throughout the pandemic. OBS, for those who didn't use it, is open broadcast software. It is basically a studio software. It's a screen capture software. It is very popular with like the video game streaming community, among others. And it's a great software. You can just run it on your computer where you're running your astronomy software, broadcast it. You can mix in like your webcam and other inputs and do even fairly complex scenes. And we were using this, but why didn't we want to use it in the planetarium? Well, one thing we found is we were not getting the quality we really wanted. And especially because, so we started off simulcasting our Wednesday Tour of the Universe show from the planetarium to the internet because this is a show we had been doing as a live stream throughout the pandemic. And we wanted to basically reduce the workload of the same presenter giving the show in the planetarium is now giving it online. But to do that, because actually capturing and converting to the web stream via OBS is using up some of that same processing power that our computers need to draw the astronomy imagery. And so I didn't want to install OBS on any of the computers that were actually drawing imagery on the dome because I obviously don't want to like interrupt or affect the dome experience. So we have a 7th computer on our cluster. I connected that to our cluster basically as a 7th renderer looking at a portion of the dome because we want to send rectilinear content out to audiences, not fisheye because they don't have domes at home. But even still, I was running OBS on a machine that was doing the astronomy sim, in this case OpenSpace, and when scenes got really complex, we got major quality drops. So I wanted to get us around that, and that's what led me down the path of we needed hardware encoding. We needed some separate hardware box that was doing the processing on its own and not using the infrastructure needed for the rendering. The other thing that really came out is not just the simulcast, but our membership and development departments wanted to bring our lectures online. We have a monthly astronomy lecture series at Morrison Planetarium, and also we had some donors in 2021 who wanted us, 22, who wanted to start a neuroscience lecture series using the planetarium as a neuroscience visualization environment. And these are both things that our membership and development teams wanted to extend beyond just the people we can fit into the planetarium and be part of our like global brand. But for doing these multimedia lectures, we are using a combination of a presenter on stage, their PowerPoint, and dome visuals. And NDI is something that gave us a solution to mix all of these streams together. And so what we've added is sort of the heart of this system for us is a NewTek NDI TriCaster. This is a like standard video production rig. You might have, if you've ever worked in a video production house or you know anyone who does like theater or works at like a venue that does a lot of live stream stuff these days. These are becoming very common. NewTek for years has been making audio-visual production switches. This one is specialized for NDI. And it is taking in those, so since NDI is converting video signal just to network protocol, we're sending everything from like, this is a PTZ camera that we can control, this is one of the encoder boxes. We're taking all of those signals, sending them into just a standard network switch, gigabit switch network. It does have to be an independent VLAN from everything else in order to like ingest correctly and have protected traffic flow, because each single video stream is about 100 megabits per second, because it is a very high quality stream. So you do need that good infrastructure support. But then once you have it, you can just pull it all into this TriCaster in our case to work with it and have a nice smooth production environment. So this is basically like a diagrammatic layout of our system. We have this PTZ, this pan tilt zoom camera that we can control over network to pivot, look around. If we get fancy, we would even add some more of them. We have our our presentation system that we plug laptops and stuff into, running into an NDI encoder. We have our 7th streaming computer called Mechagodzilla, also running into an NDI encoder. All the machines have, cute little names like that. All that gets mixed into the TriCaster, where we can have a video producer sit and actually mix and manage the stream and do like professional looking video production. And then that can do direct hardware streaming because it's already encoded that out to websites like YouTube and Facebook. But also significant that we've been using it for is it has a, here's like the mixing panel. So we've got like all of our inputs in. It looks like a video production board. You can even buy a board add-on for it. But also what's cool is it has a NDI has a bunch of tools, and this is what is useful is all the hardware is expensive, but some of the software tools in the API you can get for free. And so there are ways you could do some of this at very low cost. For some platforms that do not support these direct streaming signals, what is cool is one of the NDI tools is a webcam input that can take the NDI stream on your network, ingest it, tell your computer this is a webcam signal. Because I think as many of us found out, a lot of the video chat programs like Zoom, Google Meet, etc., do not like doing screen captures and will deprioritize screen capture quality, but prioritize webcam quality. And so if you tell it, ooh, the NDI stream on my network is actually a high definition webcam, you can get a nice clean signal to send to some of those platforms. And this lets us bring our virtual programs to Zoom. It also lets us use the preferred sort of stream comment handling program we use called StreamYard. So it's a great versatile tool for that. And then as we installed it, we found out we had other uses for this. So one of these cases was last fall we hosted a music VJ type event in the planetarium. And I spent months working with the guy who was doing these music videos of can you tell me what the outputs of your computer are and what you need to control it? And it turns out he was borrowing a computer from some friend who had this software, so he couldn't tell me this whole time. So he gets in, we do have a server with a capture card. He had the wrong outputs and we couldn't get it down to the capture card. And then he was like, oh, I gotta control it with a VR handsets that only connect on Bluetooth. Our server room is 4 stories down. Bluetooth doesn't work over 4 stories. So what we actually set him up with is, it was okay, we can have your computer in the booth, we can have your VR headset and hand controls, and basically use one of our NDI encoders, capture his signal, ingest it into the NDI network, and then use our playback server has an NDI stream capability. We could then capture that NDI stream back off the network into our server, and with basically no latency despite doing all these encodes, this dude could hang out in the booth with his VR handset and fly through this VJ landscape. And so it was oh yeah, this is not just helping us for these streaming things, it is providing a new level of flexibility internally. And I think it was really cool that as we were looking down the road at this, we can use this to do things like overflow capacity, because we can take an NDI signal from either our auditorium space or the planetarium and send that signal into the other space over the network. We can bridge it to the boardroom, we can bridge it to other presentation spaces in the academy. And in fact, basically simultaneously as we've been working on this in the planetarium, our exhibits team has been adding AV over IP functionality to our entire building-wide system. And so we're looking at a road down the head where for the first time, I remember at the start of my career, having to run a coax cable between an auditorium and a planetarium to do an overflow signal. Now we basically have a built-in way of independently routing and sending video signal anywhere in the building. This is like I said, a costly solution the way we deployed it, but I think that's important because I think it's very easy for institutions to ask live streaming and simulcasting to be something we add to our plates. Of course, we want to attract, retain, build these audiences that are more comfortable coming virtually than in person. But it needs to be an investment, is my opinion of if we just treat this as a throwaway, we're not going to be giving the same high quality programming to these virtual audiences that we're giving in person, and they don't deserve that. They deserve an investment in the technology, in the programming, and to know it's a real and serious program for them. And our institutions, I think, need to recognize that, yeah, this isn't just like a quick, easy add-on to do, but if you do it right, it can be part of a heavily invested in audiovisual system that can really extend your capabilities. And it's something, yeah, down the road we're looking at, like, we're still using, of course, like fiber extenders to our projectors to get the highest quality video from the servers to the projectors, but for anything else, like presentation needs-wise, in our boardroom, in our exhibit spaces, in our auditorium, in our planetarium, anything that's part of these flexible presentation systems, move it all over to NDI, and then we can just send any signal anywhere and do anything we want with it. I do want to point out there are marketplace competitors, QSC, who makes the QSys audio video system that does a lot of backend. They also have a video over IP solution, and about a week, 2 weeks before this conference, Dante, who makes the Dante audio over IP solution, announced Dante AV will now support video. So there are other competitors on the marketplace. It's an area there is more research. My written paper will have more details on exactly how to build the system we did. It did come out to about a $10,000 cost, but there are ways that you could use the SDK and toolkit, build your own machine, and do this at a much lower cost. So I'd be happy to talk with anyone who would like more information on that. But I think, yeah, AV over IP is like a big future. It's huge at all the AV conferences. Like you go to Infocom, everyone's talking about adding NDI, so it has huge marketplace saturation. We're only going to see more of it. And I think, yeah, it's a great thing to come home to your institution, school, museum, wherever, and be like, hey, we could do some cool stuff with video over IP. And that's what I got.
Just a comment. We found out a couple of years ago that Digistar 7 has this NDI by default, and we found that you can actually install like a little streaming NDI toolkit to your Android tablet, and we were using it as a remote camera for science experiments that you could see the small to put it up on the dome as well.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like all these things that used to be really hard to get video like onto the dome. Yeah, I mean, all of the vendors could support NDI as a well, they would have to license it from NewTek, but yeah, having these kind of functions would be really cool for doing things like, yeah, these webcam inputs, these multi-channel inputs. So yes, I also want to present this in the hope that there's broader embrace in our support community, because I think, yeah, you know, you could, if you're a vendor, you could sell a streaming system with a planetarium and make it really easy for the customers. So all kinds of ways to handle it. Yeah.
In our context, we have the following need. Our university have different campuses. I believe it may be similar in many other countries. And not each campus or town or city can have a full dome theater. So streaming content to, say, other places, for example, another campus, but preferably in a way that it can be experienced in an immersive way, maybe a much smaller dome, or even some other options. Now, my question is just, I suspect it's possible, but to have your full dome content or a version of that, appropriate version, streamed to VR glasses, that it can be an immersive experience. Is this an appropriate technology to do that? Are there already facilities around here that do that type of streaming to stretch your audience to places too far for people to regularly travel to your facility?
Yeah, and in fact, one facility I know that has done that kind of VR streaming is the Adler Planetarium. So if you talk to the Adler folks here, they can probably tell you more about that. We are interested in doing it at the Academy, and in fact, part of our investment in this rig was to have the hardware to be able to handle that. Because, I mean, in general, a VR stream, you can, if you send a full resolution stream to YouTube, you can just say, hey, by the way, this is a 360 video. It's just like a little checkbox. But the big thing we want to do is, in order to support 360, we wanted to be able to have 4K capture and streaming so people could get the highest resolution possible. And we found doing this level of hardware encoding was really going to be helpful for that. We have not yet dived into sending 360 streams that people could watch on a headset, but it is totally possible with this infrastructure. The other thing I would note too is OBS, which I've mentioned before and many of us have used, also has NDI plugins, so you can use it as an NDI ingester and basically use that as like a replacement for this new TriCaster hardware box. You could build your own that's driven by OBS and use OBS as your NDI manager tool.
Other questions? Let's thank our speaker then.